The Galactic Council had always underestimated humanity. For 3 centuries they had fed the human colonies carefully crafted lies, painting themselves as benevolent overseers who had uplifted a primitive species from their cradle world. They spoke of protection, of guidance, of the sacred duty they bore to shepherd the young race through the dangers of the cosmos. Eva Torres stood in the observation deck of the Vindication, her knuckles white against the cold metal railing. Beyond the reinforced viewports, the Council's flagship, the Eternal Harmony, hung in space like a grotesque monument to their arrogance. For weeks she had suspected the truth. Now, staring at the decoded transmission scrolling across her neural interface, she knew with absolute certainty that everything had been a lie. They knew, she whispered, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. They knew about Earth's defenses. They knew we could have defended ourselves. Luis Reyes stepped beside her, his jaw clenched so tight she could hear his teeth grinding. The former Council liaison had risked everything to bring her the encrypted files. Centuries of deliberate manipulation, strategic suppression of human technological development, and worst of all, the orchestrated pirate raids that had killed millions of colonists. Raids the Council had not only known about but had actively encouraged. The Velkari incident, Luis said, pulling up a holographic display. The one they told us was a natural disaster that killed your parents and 12,000 others on the mining colony. Eva's breath caught. She watched the footage, not of a solar flare as the Council had claimed, but of Council warships, their signatures carefully masked, bombarding the settlement from orbit. They had murdered her family. They had murdered thousands. And they had blamed it on the universe's cruelty. Why? The word escaped her lips like a prayer and a curse. Control, Luis answered, his voice hollow. Humanity adapted too quickly. We learned their technology in decades when it took other species centuries. We asked too many questions. We challenged their authority. He turned to face her, and she saw the same rage burning in his eyes that she felt in her chest. They were afraid of what we'd become if we knew the truth. The bridge doors hissed open, and Captain Marcus Chen strode in, his weathered face grim. Behind him, the entire command crew of the Vindication filed into the observation deck. Word had spread through the ship like wildfire. Every human aboard knew what Eva and Luis had discovered. The other colonies? Eva asked. I've transmitted the files to all human settlements, Chen replied. New Terra, Proxima Station, the frontier worlds, all of them. 17 billion humans now know exactly what the Council has done to us. Through the viewport, Eva watched as more human vessels began dropping out of FTL. Civilian transports, mining ships, even ancient colony vessels that hadn't seen combat in a century, all converging on Council space. They came not with formal declarations or diplomatic protocols, but with the unified fury of a species that had finally seen behind the mask. The Council had made a fatal miscalculation. They had studied humanity's history, seen the wars and conflicts, and assumed humans would turn on each other when threatened. They never considered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their individual power, but in what happened when they stood together against a common enemy. Incoming. Transmission from the Council flagship, the communications officer announced. A hologram flickered to life. Ambassador Thel Quinn, the Arcosian who had smiled and spoken of friendship while orchestrating humanity's subjugation for 2 centuries. His crystalline features showed confusion, then dawning horror as he registered the size of the human fleet assembling before him. This is madness, Thel Quinn sputtered. You cannot threaten the Council. We are your protectors, our jailers, Eva interrupted, her voice cold as the void. Our murderers. Our enslavers. You don't understand the complexities of galactic politics, the ambassador tried again. We made difficult choices to maintain peace. You made choices to maintain your power, Luis cut in. You kept us weak because you were terrified of us growing strong. Chen stepped forward. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. The Galactic Council is hereby informed that humanity rejects your authority, your protection, and your lies. Effective immediately, all human worlds are declaring independence. You'll doom yourselves. Thel Quinn's composure cracked. The Devourer swarms, the Void Terrors, you need our protection. Eva laughed, and it was a sound without humor. We accessed your military archives, Ambassador. The threats you warned us about? Most of them were exaggerated. The rest? You used them as excuses to control our fleet movements, to prevent us from expanding, from becoming strong enough to challenge you. And the ones that were real? Chen added. We'll handle them the way humanity has always handled threats, by facing them head-on. The Council's response came swiftly. Across known space, their fleets mobilized, expecting the young human race to crumble before their might. They had fleets numbering in the tens of thousands, weapons that could crack planets, technology refined over millions of years. But they had never fought a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history at war. They had never faced an enemy that remembered Stalingrad and Thermopylae, that carried in its genetic memory the knowledge that sometimes survival meant making the other side hurt more than they could bear. The Battle of the Council Nexus lasted 16 hours. Human ships, supposedly inferior according to Council doctrine, tore through their formations with a ferocity that shocked the galaxy. Eva piloted a strike fighter alongside hundreds of others, each one crewed by someone who had lost family to the Council's lies. They fought with precision honed by necessity and rage sharpened by betrayal. Luis coordinated the cyber warfare division, his insider knowledge of Council systems proving devastatingly effective. Every firewall fell. Every encrypted channel was compromised. The Council's perfect order dissolved into chaos as their own technology turned against them. When the eternal harmony finally broke apart, its core detonating in a brilliant flash that lit up the sector, the galaxy held its breath. The message humanity sent in the aftermath was simple. We will not be controlled. We will not be lied to. We will not be caged. Humanity stands free, and we will remember what you did to us. Eva watched the debris field scatter across the stars, and for the first time in years, she felt something like peace. The Council's age of dominance was over. Humanity's age, uncertain, dangerous, but unquestionably free, had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity wouldn't have it any other way.